coin that was never supposed to exist sold in June of 2021 for $18,872,250. The buyer was anonymous. The coin was, by every formal definition the United States government recognizes, contraband. Owning one is a federal crime. Owning this particular one is not. It's a single $20 gold piece, the St. Gaudens Double Eagle, a design once called the most beautiful coin America ever struck. 445,500 of them were made. None were ever released. And to understand how one of them ended up legal, while the other 12 known survivors are still hunted by the United States Secret Service, you have to go back to the Philadelphia Mint in the spring of 1933. The country was, at that point, 2.5 years into the Great Depression. Banks had been failing in waves. Gold had been leaving the Treasury faster than it could be tracked. And in March, Franklin Roosevelt, newly inaugurated, signed an executive order pulling the United States off the gold standard. Americans were ordered to hand in their gold coins. Mints were ordered to stop releasing new ones. But the presses at Philadelphia had already been running. The 1933 dies had already been cut. And so, while Washington was still finalizing the rules, the Philadelphia Mint quietly produced 445,500 double eagles, each one weighing just under an ounce of pure gold, each one bearing the date 1933. They were counted, they were bagged, they were sent to the vaults to wait, and then the order came down. Every single 1933 double eagle was to be melted into bullion. 2 specimens were spared, sent to the Smithsonian for the National Numismatic Collection as official record copies. The rest, on paper, ceased to exist, on paper, because somewhere between the vault and the furnace, 20 of them walked out. The Mint did not notice immediately. The coins had been counted, weighed, recorded. The bags were sealed. The paperwork said the destruction had been carried out, and for several years, nobody on the outside had any reason to believe otherwise. Then, in the late 1930s, 1933 double eagles began appearing on the collector market. Not in piles, not in public auctions, one at a time, quietly, to very specific people who could afford a coin that, technically, was not allowed to be sold because it had never been issued in the first place. The Secret Service, which has jurisdiction over United States currency crimes, opened an investigation. They traced the coins backward, dealer by dealer, collector by collector, and the trail led, again and again, to a single Philadelphia jeweler named Israel Swit. Swit had done business with the Mint. Swit had access. Swit, when questioned, said almost nothing useful. The statute of limitations had already run out on the original theft. He couldn't be charged, but the coins could be seized. Through the 1940s and into the 1950s, the Secret Service hunted them down. They knocked on doors. They appeared at auctions. They confiscated 9 of the recovered coins from collectors who had bought them in good faith, and those 9 were destroyed, melted, erased a second time, decades after the first attempt. And here, the story should have ended. 2 coins in the Smithsonian. The rest, gone. Except one of the stolen double eagles had already left the country. In 1944, a 1933 double eagle was sold to King Farouk of Egypt, a famously voracious collector who would buy almost anything if it was rare enough. Egypt was a wartime ally, and somebody at the Treasury, in a moment that has never been satisfactorily explained, issued the coin an official export license. They signed off on it. They certified, in writing, that this illegal coin could legally leave the United States. It was, by all contemporary accounts, an extremely embarrassing piece of paperwork. By the time the Secret Service realized what had happened and asked for the coin back, Farouk had it locked in his palace, and the Egyptian government was, politely, not in a hurry to respond. Then in 1952, Farouk was overthrown. His collection was auctioned. The United States asked the new Egyptian government to return the double eagle. It vanished instead. For more than 40 years, nobody saw it. Nobody admitted to having it. The coin was a ghost in the numismatic world, known to exist, known to be illegal, and entirely missing. Until February of 1996, a British coin dealer named Stephen Fenton flew into New York carrying the Farouk Double Eagle, intending to sell it to what he believed was a private collector. The buyer was an undercover Secret Service agent. The meeting took place in a hotel room at the Waldorf Astoria. Fenton was arrested. The coin was seized. And then the United States government found itself with a problem, because Fenton had a defense. He had Farouk's export license, the document the Treasury itself had issued in 1944 declaring this specific coin legal to own. Charges were dropped. The case became a civil dispute, and after 5 years of litigation, the government and Fenton reached a settlement that was, in its own way, as strange as the rest of the story. The coin would be auctioned, the proceeds would be split, and the United States Treasury would, for this single specimen and no other, formally issue it, monetize it, make it legal. They struck a $20 bill ceremonially to pay the face value into the federal accounts. The 1933 Double Eagle, after 69 years, finally entered circulation for about 90 seconds, long enough to be sold. In July of 2002, at Sotheby's in New York, the coin went under the hammer. It sold for $7,590,000. The buyer remained anonymous. The hammer price set a record for any coin ever sold at auction, and the new owner, whoever they were, walked away with the only privately ownable 1933 Double Eagle on Earth. They held it for 19 years. When the coin came back to auction in June of 2021, the anonymous owner was finally revealed. He was Stuart Weitzman, the shoe designer. He had bought the coin in 2002 as part of what he called a personal collection of impossibilities. A rare stamp, a rare coin, a rare letter. He was now selling the coin. It sold to another anonymous buyer for $18,872,250, more than double its 2002 price. The most expensive coin ever sold at auction. The most expensive coin, by any measure, in history. It became, formally, the Weitzman specimen. Of the original 445,500 coins, this is what remains. 2 sit in the Smithsonian's National Numismatic Collection, the official survivors, the ones the mint set aside in 1933. 10 more are held in the United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox. These were recovered from collectors who had owned them illegally, and rather than destroying them like the 9 before, the government chose to preserve them. They are not on display. They are not for sale. They are not, in any legal sense, coins. They're contraband held in a vault. 13 specimens, total. 12 owned by the United States government. 1 owned by a private buyer whose name has never been disclosed. The Secret Service is still listed in official statements as the agency that investigates reports of any further 1933 Double Eagles surfacing. 20 are known to have escaped the melt. 13 have been accounted for. The other 7, if Israel Swit did, in fact, take 20, and if the Secret Service's count was correct, have never been found. They may have been melted privately decades ago to remove the evidence. They may sit in a safe deposit box in a city the government has never searched. They may be passed quietly between collectors who understand exactly what they're holding and exactly what would happen if they ever tried to sell it. The 1933 Double Eagle was never issued. It was never spent. It was never, in the strictest legal sense, money. Of every coin the United States has ever struck, this is the one it tried hardest to erase and failed. Why do you think a coin the government insists has no right to exist keeps reappearing, decade after decade, in the hands of people who shouldn't have it?